Created as a means of increasing the size and practicality of its SUV range, the Ford Excursion of 2000 combined the mass and underpinnings of the highly successful F-Series Super Duty pickup truck range with the comforts and livability of regular family SUVs in an attempt to finally dethrone the Chevrolet Suburban from the top of the SUV market. However, what resulted was a machine that invited moral panic for its exceptional road presence, which sent shockwaves among environmentalist groups and analysts as a return to the much criticized excessiveness of the American motor industry during the early 1970s. Though the Excursion would never truly represent the direction of wider motoring trends, as its impractical size, combined with the prevailing economy, saw it killed after only 5 years in production. In the early 1970s, the full-size SUV landscape began to shift significantly when General Motors introduced a redesigned version of its Chevy Suburban, with the 1973 model year seeing the addition of a fourth passenger door, transforming what had previously been a large, somewhat utilitarian vehicle into a far more practical option for families and commercial operators. This configuration offered easy access to both the front and rear seating areas, greatly increasing its appeal to a broader market, and allowed the Suburban to go head-to-head with the International Harvester Travelall, another sizable wagon-style SUV that had, until then, been one of the few real competitors in the full-size segment. However, when International Harvester discontinued the Travelall in 1975, the Suburban was left standing as the undisputed king of the full-size SUV market, and for the next 2 decades, this vehicle effectively owned this segment, operating without any serious rival to challenge its dominance, particularly in the category of large 4-door family-capable sports utility vehicles built on heavy-duty truck frames. Ford, for its part, approached the SUV market differently during these years, with 1978 seeing it introduce the second-generation Bronco, which was its first real foray into the full-size SUV market. Though rather than going head-to-head with the Suburban directly, the Bronco was designed more as a rival to the slightly smaller 2-door models like the Chevy K5 Blazer, GMC Jimmy, and Dodge Ram Charger. Built on the platform of the Ford F-100 pickup, the Bronco retained a 3-door layout with a removable hardtop, which appealed to off-road enthusiasts and recreational buyers, but did not address the growing demand for large multi-row 4-door family vehicles that the Suburban catered to so effectively. But despite its popularity among a certain subset of SUV buyers, the Bronco's design left Ford unable to compete in the larger family-focused 4-door SUV market that General Motors was dominating. Throughout the 1980s and into the early 1990s, Ford dabbled with the concept of a 4-door full-size SUV, but never committed to mass production, though special order conversions of the Bronco were available through third-party manufacturers who created custom 4-door versions by grafting the rear portion of the Bronco onto the crew cab bodies of Ford's F-Series pickups. These conversions often utilized the heavy-duty F350 chassis to carry the additional weight and length, offering considerable space and towing capabilities, but due to these vehicles being low volume, expensive, and not officially offered by Ford itself, they remained niche products that only served a small segment of the market, and as a result, Ford continued to watch from the sidelines as the Suburban maintained its dominance as the only widely available full-size SUV capable of carrying large numbers of passengers and cargo with ease. By the mid-1990s, it was becoming increasingly clear that the American appetite for large SUVs was not just a temporary trend, but a rapidly expanding market segment, and in 1997, Ford took a significant step forward by introducing the Expedition, which was built on the redesigned F-150 platform and featured 4 full-size doors, seating for up to 9 occupants, and filled a market gap between the mid-size Chevy Tahoe and the full-size Suburban. The Expedition proved to be an immediate success, offering a practical balance of size, towing capability, and family-friendly interior space, but despite its strong sales, Ford realized that the Expedition did not completely cover the uppermost tier of the market, where General Motors' 3/4-ton 2500 series Suburban and GMC Yukon XL thrived, with these heavy-duty SUVs, based on more robust pickup truck frames, being able to handle larger towing loads, heavier cargo, and offered greater durability for commercial use or families who required serious hauling capacity. Recognizing this gap, Ford set out to build a new vehicle that could directly challenge General Motors' stronghold on the heavy-duty SUV market, and in 1999, they launched its Super Duty pickup truck range, which included the F250 and F350 models, with these trucks featuring more rugged chassis, upgraded suspension systems, and reinforced frames designed for the harshest towing and hauling demands, with the Super Duty line providing Ford with the perfect foundation on which to base a new heavy-duty SUV that could surpass even the Suburban in terms of size, strength, and capacity. This strategic move led to the creation of the Ford Excursion, and drawing extensively from the architecture of the F-250 Super Duty, the Excursion was engineered to appeal to buyers who needed far more than what conventional SUVs could offer, targeting customers such as large families towing boats or horse trailers, commercial operators transporting equipment, and anyone who required vast interior space combined with formidable towing power. The Excursion offered the ability to tow loads far beyond what most SUVs of the era could manage, while accommodating up to 9 passengers comfortably, being very much a product of its time, and it perfectly aligned with the American consumer mindset of the late 1990s, where rising suburban expansion, low petrol prices, and a cultural embrace of ever larger vehicles made full-size SUVs immensely popular. By March of that year, news of Ford's upcoming behemoth had already begun to circulate, generating considerable anticipation and debate, with markets such as Australia, where vehicle size is often more tightly regulated, seeing commentators suggest that the Excursion's sheer bulk might require drivers to obtain a truck license, a testament to its imposing dimensions. Within the United States, however, no such restrictions applied, and instead the Excursion was viewed as the ultimate manifestation of American automotive ambition, dwarfing its main rival, the Suburban, and challenging conventional notions of what a passenger vehicle could or should be. The official debut of the Ford Excursion occurred on September 30, 1999, launching as a 2000 model year offering, and buyers flocked to the larger and more powerful SUV, though early media coverage immediately fixated on its sheer size and engineering, with Popular Science labeling it as the biggest sport utility on the planet, a description that captured both the vehicle's ambition and the public's mixed reactions. Beneath its massive bodywork lay the proven F-250 Super Duty platform, adapted for SUV use, and buyers could select from a range of powertrains including the standard 5.4-litre Triton V8, producing 255 horsepower, an optional 6.8-litre Triton V10 delivering 310 horsepower, or a formidable 7.3-litre Powerstroke turbo diesel capable of generating 525 pound-feet of torque. These engines were mated to heavy-duty automatic transmissions, offering both rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive configurations, and were designed with towing and load carrying in mind, thus promising utility well beyond that of a typical family SUV. Yet, from the outset, the Ford Excursion was not without its detractors, with environmental organizations swiftly condemning the vehicle as a symbol of irresponsible excess, with the Sierra Club, one of the most vocal critics, derisively naming it as the Ford Valdez, drawing a pointed parallel with the Exxon Valdez oil spill, while Daniel Becker, then director of the Sierra Club's Global Warming and Energy Program, compared the Excursion to an ecological garbage truck, underscoring the group's view that the vehicle exemplified the worst aspects of Detroit's approach to environmental responsibility. Safety regulators also raised alarms, as studies conducted by the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration highlighted the increased risk that large SUVs such as the Excursion pose to occupants of smaller passenger cars during collisions, with the substantial height and mass of the Excursion making it more likely to override smaller vehicles in head-on impacts. In response to these concerns, Ford integrated a tubular steel blocker beam beneath the front bumper, an innovative safety feature that intended to reduce the risk of ride-over accidents by absorbing crash forces and limiting intrusion into smaller vehicles. In spite of the mounting criticism from environmentalists, safety advocates, and segments of the media, the Excursion enjoyed a strong commercial debut, and during its first full year of availability, Ford sold nearly 69,000 units, a figure that closely matched the company's internal sales targets and nearly reached its production capacity, which stood at 70,000 units annually. This initial success suggested that the Excursion has struck a chord with a specific segment of buyers, with large families, towing enthusiasts, and customers seeking unmatched passenger and cargo space combined with serious towing muscle, while its fuel consumption, averaging between 9 and 15 miles per gallon depending on engine choice, was an acceptable trade-off for its size and capabilities. However, by the close of 2000, troubling signs began to emerge that hinted at potential difficulties ahead, as while the Excursion had enjoyed robust early sales, its sheer bulk made it impractical for many urban and suburban drivers who struggled with its towering height, lengthy body, and substantial turning radius in tighter spaces such as car parks and residential streets. More critically, rising fuel prices and growing public concern about fuel consumption, carbon emissions, and road safety contributed to an emerging backlash against oversized SUVs, with the Excursion, once celebrated by its proponents for its rugged capability, quickly becoming a lightning rod of intensifying debate over America's love affair with large fuel-thirsty vehicles. In the media and among policymakers, the Excursion was increasingly cited as a prime example of automotive excess that prioritized size and power at the expense of environmental and social responsibility. And despite Ford's public optimism regarding the Excursion's future sales trajectory, industry analysts by late 2000 began to voice skepticism about the long-term viability of such a vehicle in a market where environmental awareness and fuel economy were becoming more prominent factors in consumer decision-making. Nevertheless, production of the Excursion continued, with the vehicle being offered in multiple trim levels to appeal to a wide range of customers, from fleet buyers to luxury-orientated families, with the entry-level XL trim being primarily targeted towards commercial and fleet users, while the XLT trim served as the core retail offering. The limited trim introduced premium features including leather upholstery, a power-operated driver's seat, illuminated running boards, and an optional rear entertainment system featuring a DVD player. And for the 2003 model year, Ford expanded the Excursion's lineup further with the introduction of the Eddie Bauer edition, offering unique aesthetic touches and enhanced comfort features, while the seating configurations allowed for either 8 or 9 passengers, depending on whether front bucket seats or bench seats were selected. In 2002, Ford implemented a series of incremental updates aimed at improving comfort and functionality, with the instrument panel being revised to include a digital odometer and a transmission temperature gauge, while seating materials were upgraded to reflect changing consumer preferences. The most significant mechanical update came midway through the 2003 model year, when the aging 7.3-litre Power-Stroke diesel was phased out and replaced with the newer 6-litre Power-Stroke V8 turbo diesel, with this engine delivering increased output rated at 325 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque, and was paired with Ford's new 5-speed torque-shift 5R110W automatic transmission, enhancing towing performance and drivability, while later model years saw the Excursion's maximum towing capacity reach as high as 11,000 pounds, depending on engine and drivetrain configuration, further cementing its status as a leading heavy-duty SUV. Despite its technical strengths and early sales success, the Excursion's fortunes began to wane rapidly after 2001, and while Ford had anticipated sustained annual production levels of approximately 70,000 units, sales figures dropped precipitously, with 2002 seeing industry estimates suggesting annual sales of around 30,000 units, well below Ford's break-even threshold of approximately 40,000. In 2004, Ford formally announced its decision to discontinue the Excursion, with production officially ending on September 30, 2005, while over the course of its production run, Ford had manufactured more than 195,000 Excursions, while a limited run of 2006 model year vehicles was produced exclusively for the Mexican market before the model was fully withdrawn from assembly. With the departure of the Excursion from Ford's portfolio, the company shifted its focus towards the extended-length Expedition EL, introduced in 2007, with this new model, while still offering substantial cargo and passenger capacity, being based on the lighter-duty half-ton Expedition platform, and targeted a broader consumer base rather than replicating the Excursion's heavy-duty capabilities. Although the Ford Excursion experienced a relatively brief production run and faced significant criticism during and after its time on the market, including being singled out by Time magazine in 2007 as one of the 50 worst cars of all time, its reputation has undergone a notable transformation in the years following its discontinuation. Initially, following the onset of the 2008 global financial crisis, values for large, fuel-thirsty vehicles like the Excursion plummeted, with consumers at the time gravitating towards smaller, more economical and environmentally friendly options, often favoring compact SUVs, hybrid vehicles, or fuel-efficient sedans as petrol prices soared and financial pressures mounted. The Excursion, with its massive size, weight, and thirst for fuel, became increasingly difficult to justify for the average buyer, leading to a significant depreciation in its resale value, and during this period, many examples were sold at deep discounts, and some were even retired from service entirely as owners sought cheaper alternatives. As the economy recovered and fuel prices began to stabilize and eventually declined from their previous highs, while simultaneously, consumer taste began shifting back towards larger vehicles, with full-size trucks and SUVs once again gaining strong market traction, with the resurgence sparking renewed interest in discontinued models like the Excursion, which offered a blend of capability, size, and durability that modern SUVs often struggle to match. Collectors, off-road enthusiasts, large families, and individuals requiring serious towing capacity increasingly sought out the Excursion, recognizing its unique combination of attributes that made it ideal for specific tasks such as hauling heavy trailers, carrying numerous passengers, or transporting substantial cargo loads. In today's collector and enthusiast market, Well-preserved Ford Excursions routinely command high resale values, often surpassing $30,000, particularly for the highly sought-after diesel-powered versions equipped with the robust 7.3-litre or 6-litre power-stroke engines, with the diesel variants being prized not only for their substantial torque output and towing capability, but also for their longevity and mechanical resilience. Many owners have successfully kept their Excursions running well beyond 300,000 miles, with a significant number surpassing the 500,000-mile mark through careful maintenance, regular servicing, and responsible operation, with this remarkable longevity having only added to the vehicle's growing mystique and desirability among devoted fans. The enduring appeal of the Ford Excursion lies in its distinctive ability to offer sheer size, brute strength, and a purpose-built, heavy-duty character that stands apart from the increasingly refined and car-like SUVs dominating the modern market. And even as the SUV segment has expanded with the introduction of newer models such as the Jeep Grand Wagoneer L and the Cadillac Escalade ESV, both of which have now surpassed the Excursion in overall length, the Ford remains singular in its original mission. As the automotive industry continues to evolve towards electrification, lighter materials, and efficiency-focused engineering, the Ford Excursion stands as a lasting symbol of an earlier era when bigger was truly better, with its commanding road presence, versatility, and indomitable mechanical character having secured its place in automotive history. For many, the Excursion represents not only a bygone chapter in the story of American SUVs, but also a reminder of the bold, unapologetic approach to vehicle design that defined a very specific moment in time, and it continues to captivate those who appreciate its rare blend of power, practicality, and unmistakable identity, ensuring its legacy endures well beyond its years of active production.